Hello, beautiful people. My name is Marika Gare, and this is the Inspiration Trilogy, a platform for women across the globe to share wisdom, advice, and have some meaningful conversations. So today's guest is Karen Whiteley, founder of Right Click Business Consulting and Money Mentor. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marika. It's just lovely to be here.
Look, it's great to have you here. I think you've got a lot of wisdom to share with the world. But we'll start with, would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are?
Absolutely, I'd love to. My passion is around helping women in business, and it's as simply as helping them to understand their numbers and what those numbers mean, and to help them make great financial decisions, certainly for long-term profitability, but just empowering people, because we're not taught how to understand numbers or read financial reports or whatever when we get into business. When we get into business, it's because we're great at what we do, either the service or the product that we're providing the world, but it doesn't mean that we're great at running business.
Yeah.
And there's lots of moving parts in running a business. For me, the starting point of that is understanding those numbers. Excuse me. So it's as simple as that. So how this came to be was that I was in business with my ex-husband for 26 years.
Wow.
It was a long time. We had 10 employees at the height of that business. Unfortunately, he didn't have any idea with finances, and that reflected a lot of the time in the business, and that was really frustrating from my end. Anyway, so all of a sudden, after 26 years of marriage and being in business, we're in business probably 28 years, but we were certainly married for 26 years, 2 teenage sons. I found myself a single mother with no financial support at all. I was working in corporate. I've always worked in finance of some varying descriptions. I was a finance manager, operations manager. So it was really up to me for the running of the place financially and otherwise. But it was a very toxic environment.
Often the corporate places are, aren't they? So many people have that experience.
I know, because people have said, why wouldn't you want to be a CFO? So for those that don't understand what that is, a chief financial officer. And that's kind of what I was doing. And as you've said, quite often that can be a very toxic environment. I certainly didn't enjoy that world. I enjoyed my work, but what was going on around me was quite toxic. Then I found that, and I wasn't terribly well paid. So paying the rent, the boys were going to a private school, things were really tough. So I needed to find a way to supplement my income. What can I do? What side hustle can I do? And lots of people were saying to me, do you do bookkeeping? And in Australia, you need to be a registered BAS agent, so registered with the Tax Practitioners Board, to be able to do that. So I did some study for a while. Life was quite a juggle. 2 boys, two teenage boys, full-time job, trying to do some study, trying to just keep it all together.
And then dealing with the aftermath of a relationship breakdown and everything else as well. Like, that's a lot to have happen in a short space of time.
It's interesting you brought that up, Marika, because I haven't thought about that, to be honest. And only when I was going through taking him to court and whatever and go through that process, I thought, blimey, that really was a hard period of time. But I haven't actually reflected on that. So it's interesting you brought that up, because that was incredibly tough.
Yeah, and I think as women, we kind of tend to just power through and get things done, especially as mums, and you do what you need to do and that's it.
You do.
But you often don't have time to really sit back and, process everything, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting insight, because as women, we do just get on with it in the main. and we just got to get the job done, and whatever it takes, and we don't think about, especially when there's children involved, you just have to keep going. You've just got to do it.
Yeah.
So I really like that insight, actually, because I guess I've just thought about my business journey, my own journey, but not that I had that separate to my business journey, but it's actually not. Because when you're dealing with all the roller coaster that those emotions bring, yes, it was a tough time.
Yeah.
And for a while too, you know, it was 6 times to court and all that kind of stuff. It was, yeah. Now that I think about it, that was a pretty tough time.
Yeah, because you are sort of providing a safe space for your children as well to process that. And so, yeah, a lot of our energies do go into what's happening around us and others around us before ourselves. But it's, yeah, sometimes it impacts us a bit more than what we realise at that time.
I think you're right, yeah. And because you're so busy getting on with it, you can, that's it, I haven't really reflected on that, to be honest. I see that as separate to the other journey that I was going on with, you know, how I could change the world with my work. So, yeah.
But it's a wonderful motivation too, because, you know, as we were talking about before, things do happen that kind of, you know, end up being a catalyst for a completely different direction or path in our lives, or to follow our passion or whatever it might be. So, look, so how did you navigate through that time emotionally? How did you overcome dealing with all of that and starting your own business and working? I mean, it's how did you do that without burning out?
Absolutely no idea, actually. Look, I think it boils down to if you've got a burning desire to change things, whatever that change is, then you just get on with it. And for me, I needed to be a good example to my sons, to not just lay down and die. And I mean, you know, in those kinds of situations, you just love to curl up in a corner and rock. But I couldn't for them. They were in a you know, a challenging time of their own lives.
Especially teenagers as well.
Absolutely. And I don't remember exactly the timing, but one of them was in his last year of high school and was needed the marks to get to university. So it was, you know, there was lots going on, but I knew that there was more for me. I knew I couldn't keep working in the environment that I was working in. And so anyway, so during that time, I started this business because I needed them. That was ultimately what it was about. I needed the money.
Yeah.
And it was something that I was good at that came easily. So, and during that time, as hard as it was, because I'm so good with numbers and I was working a job, so I knew exactly what my income was every week. I was able to, I knew where every penny had to go. So what my power bill was, my water bill, what my rent was, etc., etc. I knew where every cent was going. Initially, I couldn't save any money, but it didn't take long before I was able to put away $20 a week or whatever it was. And that can build up quite quickly. And before you know, in 6 months, that's quite a bit of money. So if something comes up, which it always does, whether it's with the kids or yourself or business, there was that little bit of a buffer there. Anyway, so part of that journey was that there was an opportunity. That business was getting a little bit busier than I could cope with. My job was more and more toxic. An opportunity came up to ask for a redundancy, which I did. And they couldn't give it to me quick enough because they were really struggling financially. That was right around COVID.
Okay.
A little bit after that. A little bit after COVID. I don't remember exactly the year, so it was a little bit after COVID. Anyway, so I took the redundancy, I did the math and worked out that would feed me and the boys for 12 months. That's strict budgeting. And in the meantime, I would just really knock this business out of the park. And it's amazing what you can do when your back's against the wall. So if you
Yeah.
know that money is only going to last for X amount of time and there's no extra spending in there or anything, it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah.
So that's where I got to. And then it was really only a couple of years into my business, which I loved, and it was part of the process. But I soon realised people don't understand their numbers.
Mm.
And there's a gap between some people are lucky enough to have a bookkeeper, and not everyone can afford a bookkeeper.
Especially in the first few years of business when you're just trying to get things off the ground, that kind of additional expense can be something that you can't always afford.
Absolutely. So a lot of people I've found rely on their accountant. They see their accountant once a year. The accountants are wonderful with tax and maybe, planning, big picture planning. But when you're new in business, you need more than that. And I soon realised with the clients that I had on my books that they didn't understand the basics. And it took me a little while to sort of realise that this is a big issue and I can do something about it, that I decided I can change the world. And I do want to change the world because the stats for businesses failing, and I would say that's worldwide. I haven't done stats outside of Australia, but within Australia, most businesses fail within the first 3 to 5 years, and you'd be stretching it to 5 years from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And it has to stop. And that's because people don't understand the basics because they've never been taught the basics.
Yeah. And as we were mentioning before, people start their business, they're good at what they do, whatever that may be, but the core functionalities of running a business and finances and things like that. I mean, in my previous business, I was helping with business operational management. So similar to you in that I could see so many flaws in the way people were doing business, and it's not through any particular fault of their own. I mean, everybody does what they need to do, you try and wear all the hats, but it's quite clear over time that can't be sustained, and the business really, really suffers. Absolutely. And it's so important because it's the glue that holds it all together, right? Without the core functionality and the understanding of finances, it's never going to last. But we're also saying before that anybody can go out and get an ABN, and that's great in some respects, but there should be more platforms out there to be able to train people as not train them if they want to, but train them because they need to before they start their business, and have that to be offered free or, that's something that's affordable. So and I mean, we met many, many years ago, and I was saying before also that you have come so far since we met, and I am so proud of all that you've done and you coming to this place of being able to mentor others, and particularly women in business, because we never really know what's around the corner, whether that be life changes like relationship breakdowns or, you might be grieving the loss of a loved one, or you might get ill, or you might have an accident. There's so many things that can happen without any notice, and then we're out for months potentially, or we may not be able to just keep up with things. So there need to be some kind of understanding and backup and knowledge. So even if we do pass it on to someone else, or we're doing limited parts of things, that things just can still clog along when they need to. Absolutely. And to have that awareness, because it's so important to understand your finances and where you're at. So look, it really is. Tell us a little bit about how important it is for women in particular in business to have that independence and confidence, and what can we do to make a start on this? Absolutely.
If I could put into a bottle and sell the feeling it gives you when you have control and understanding of your numbers. So whether that's you're not in business, you're just a woman that wants to know her finances.
The household,
or in business. I mean, and that's obviously my personal, well, I've had the experience in both, of course, personally and professionally. But if I could sell that bottle of that feeling, there would not be a price on it. Because when you understand your numbers and that feeling of control, that it gives you is indescribable.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in people, and even basic things like teaching someone how to use Xero and the simple steps, which to me, I can do with, standing on my head with my hands tied behind my back. I don't think anything of it. But to see that light come on for someone and go, wow, now I get it. Or explaining how to read some financial reports. This is where your business is. Wow. So, whatever's going on in the business, that's how it affects the numbers, and to change those numbers, this is what needs to happen. So, like, for example, everyone freaks out at the balance sheet. Even those that have been in business a million years don't like the balance sheet, and which is bizarre, because it's actually one of the easiest reports to read. But because if you have never been taught, of course it's frightening, because it's just accounting jargon,
Yeah, and anything with numbers can be overwhelming and confusing for a lot of people anyway. So,
absolutely, yes. And I think it's and people. The funny thing is, people say, "Oh, but I'm not really good at math." If you had any idea how bad my mental math is, it is nothing to do with math. Believe it or not, it is. I liken it to a jigsaw puzzle. So when you're looking at your numbers, all the pieces fit into a certain place, and it's just making sure that everything is in its right place. And then it tells you those reports, so you can't just, and I bang on about this all the time, you can't read one report on its own. It needs to be in conjunction with other reports, and there's a story in front of you. It's an actual story. It is nothing to do with math. It just happens to have numbers involved with it, but it's just understanding what are those reports trying to tell you.
And then you can plan ahead and just know where you're at, know what you can do and what you can't do, and time frames of things as well. And it's monumental.
It really is. And accountancy has its place, there's no doubt, because we've all got to pay taxes. But that
unfortunately,
we're making money, we're paying tax, is what we're always told. But that's always retrospective. So what's gone on for you to pay that tax? You need to. My way of thinking is more proactive. So what do we think is going to happen this month, 3 months, 12 months, etc.? It's planning ahead. And there's systems that you can put into place so that you are planning ahead. So accountancy has its place, but it is all about looking forward. And if you've got your goals you want to achieve, you have to understand your numbers to be able to achieve those goals. So yes, I want to have a $500,000 turnover business. So then you've got to reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
And how are we going to do that? And that goes back, all the way back. What does today's report say? What do those numbers mean today? And what needs to change to have that $500,000 turnover business?
Yeah.
And that all seems daunting to so many people, because it's a big number. But it's how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with your business finances. If you don't have a clue, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But as I said, that bottle of feeling that I'd love to contain and sell, that's what I love to give to others, because it's life-changing.
And there's so many stresses, particularly at the moment in the economy, with the way things have been since the dreaded, COVID and everything. Whether it be on the home front or in business or otherwise, it's just everybody is feeling that. So if we can find any way to help relieve that stress and understand and move forward out of this kind of fog, it's it's life-changing. So what's one tip in particular that you would offer to the women out there, for the listeners out there today, where they can implement things straight away? What's a little tip that they can just go, right, well, I'll start there and then move on?
I have to think about that for a moment, but I think it's actually an easy answer. You need to work out what it costs you to have, let's talk business, what it costs you to have your business. So before you open your doors on a Monday morning, and I don't mean that literally, many of us work from home, but before you open your doors on Monday morning, what does it cost you? So what's your insurances, your power bill, you might have subscriptions to things like, for my particular business, I've got a whole app stack and they are critical to my business. Yeah. There's a whole multitude of things that would be specific to your own business.
Just to have the business, and then
absolutely. So work out what they are. Some might be annual expenses, some might be quarterly, some might be monthly. So go through your maybe last 3 to 6 months worth of bank statements. It's a big task to start with. Once you've done this task once, you never have to do it again. You just tweak. So go through your bank statements 3 to 6 months, work out what everything has cost you on a monthly basis. What does it cost you per month? Then look at your income. So if you've been in business, let's say 12 months, what's your average income over a 12-month period? Per month. Is that figure covering your absolute basic costs? So those costs would be called fixed costs. So you can't operate your business without those. So everything else, so if you've got gifts to clients, or there's meeting expenses or whatever, that's additional. But what does it cost before you open your doors? And are you covering that cost? So the important thing is, if you're running a report from say you've got accounting software, and say you're registered for GST. If you're not registered for GST, you don't need to take this into account. But if you're registered for GST, you've got to take that 10% off your income, because that belongs to the ATO. What is your real income once you take away that 10%? If you understand how to run a report, and not many people do, because that's why I do what I do now, my mentoring, that report automatically in accounting software doesn't have the GST on it. But making it simple, what is your income roughly per month on average? What are your expenses? That's going to be the biggest time consumer initially. What are your expenses per month before you open the door? Are you covering those expenses? And that right there will tell you what needs to change. I
think a lot of people would be surprised too once they work that out, because they often think things are different than what they are. So it can be quite eye-opening.
And it's no different if you don't have a business, say you do have a job. It's exactly the same thing. And it's easier in actual fact, because you know what your income is. Go through your bank statements for the last 3 to 6 months. For some people, it's going to be a very big surprise. But put everything, even if it's a piece of paper. If you're great with spreadsheets, pop it in a spreadsheet. But make sure every single item that comes up on that bank statement has a place, so that if it is entertainment, if it is going out to dinner, if it is school fees, if it is school, whatever it is. Once you get all those figures out, what does it cost you to pay the rent or the mortgage? What is your power bill? What is your water bill, etc., etc.? The things that you cannot live without. What does that cost you? That alone is a big surprise to a lot of people. And so your income is X. Your expenses that you can't change are Y. Is there a gap there? And is there a gap on that side, or is there a gap on that side? So it's is a bit of an exercise to do that, whether it's business or whether it's personal. I encourage people to do both, actually.
Yeah.
But you never have to do that again once you've done it the first time, because then every 6 to 12 months you should be looking at your numbers again, trying to where can I tweak this?
Yeah, and you're right. Doing that every 12 months was basically what we need. Is we all need a golden spreadsheet. So once we get that golden spreadsheet, which you can help us with, and help us mentor us through that, then things won't be so stressful and overwhelming. And there's
I think the whole thought of it, and women particularly always say to me, I feel sick even thinking about this. Because it's a scary thing for two reasons. I'm not good at math, which is rubbish, because you've got as much math knowledge as you need. And I said, my mental math isn't great. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. And it's just, it really is, the scary bit is pulling out those bank statements.
Yeah.
Because know done well, but there's probably a credit card involved. I've personally, since I've been single, have never had a credit card. I'm not sure. My early days of marriage, I probably did, but we won't go there. It wasn't me. I still don't have a credit card. I still manage my money. So if there's something that I want or I need, then I know what my numbers are. So when I can put X amount of money aside, then I can purchase that item or service or whatever it is. But that's the hardest part, I think, because it's going to sting mostly. You get those bank statements out and as I said, a piece of paper with lines on it is perfectly fine. You start putting those things into categories, but it takes the monkey off your back.
Yeah.
So get rid of that fear. Get that monkey off your back. Work out what the numbers actually are, and you can move forward.
Yeah. And knowledge is power, right? In any form. And it's it can just be life-changing in personal or tongue-tied there, or in business.
Easy for you to say.
For the listeners out there today, can you tell us, where are you headed with things? Where can we reach out to you? What do you have coming up that we can be involved in and learn more?
Well, I've been procrastinating on this for such a long time, but the burning desire and people telling me this is so needed. Very shortly, I've got some self-paced workshops going out to the world. So it can be a bit intimidating working with someone with your finances if you're thinking, I really don't want to face that. So the workshops will be really basic, as in none of the accounting jargon. You do this and then you do this and then you do this. And it's self-paced so that you can, in the comfort of your own home, go through these steps. The first one will be, if you're thinking about starting a business, and the steps that I recommend if you're thinking about starting a business. So, for example, have you done your market research? Just because you think your product or service is, everyone's going to want it. Have you actually tested that in the market? Is it actually wanted? Is it actually needed? And then, once you've ascertained, well, yes, I think that, I I'm different to the others in the market. There's never one of us. There's always many of us doing whatever
you need to stand out. Yeah,
you absolutely do. And so why are you different? So once you work that out, then it's working out, how do I set my business up? What do I need to do to set my business up? And just one little tiny example, many people start a business and they combine their personal and business expenses.
Yes.
Nightmare at the end of the financial year. And it'll cost you a ton of money with the accountant because they'll having ask questions and try and sort it all.
It's a complete mess.
Real hot mess. It really can be. So it's just the basic steps. So that's what my workshops are going to be.
So that's
what they're
just,
going to look.
so is that's for, I guess, business women or business people, but potentially for others who want to start a business or even just running the house admin and life admin. I mean, because
Yes,
that's, very
yes,
similar and there's a lot involved in that as well.
there really is. And I think that will be one of the course workshops that are offered. They're short, they're sharp. They'll be under, I haven't worked out the price, but they're under $100
Yeah.
for each. I'm not entirely sure what the price is going to be, but I just want it to be affordable for people. All I want to do is have people have some knowledge to get control over their finances, whether that is personally or professionally. And as we've just talked about, it's a similar thing anyway. So if you're trying to balance the very cliche, but balance the housekeeping budget. I mean, there's always so much more than that. And many women these days do look after the finances. It's not the man. And even, previous generations, my parents are in their 80s. Mum always looked after the finances. Dad wouldn't have had a clue. So even like mostly today, I think women do tend to look after the finances, but they're scared. They go to the accountant and I hope I've done it all right. I don't understand what he or she has said. And I don't know what questions to ask. To be able to go into the accountant and know what questions you want to ask, understand what they're saying, or say, can you please explain that? Have the confidence to say, can you please explain what you've just said?
Yeah.
But it's the same with your, if you're empowered over your budget at home, so paying the mortgage, food, school expenses, etc., it's no different. In actual fact, it's easier because you know exactly, mostly if you're yourself and or your partner are working a job, you know what your income's going to be. So it's much easier. But so one of my workshops will be around that, and that's probably the simplest one to follow. Simple is not the right word. The easiest one to follow because we all have to manage our household money, don't you? So it doesn't matter what situation we're in. So I'm really, really, really excited for these because if I could be in every living room where someone's sitting on their laptop going through this, going, oh my goodness, now I get this. This is actually not hard. Now I get it. Now I understand I can't afford to buy that new TV this month or, whatever it is, or I've got school fees coming up. How am I going to manage that? If I could be in each living room and see the relief and the joy that comes to people when they realize I can do this, and you can do this. Everyone can do this. And it truly is life-changing. If I can walk away from I didn't walk away, he did. Walk away, after 28 years with him, and also I'm high and dry on my own, and I can feed us, pay the rent, save some money, and all of a sudden go, you know what? I'm going to start my own, really go into my business full time, which was a huge step at the time. Anybody can do it. You just need the tools.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge to share. So where is the best place for all the listeners out there to reach out to you? Is it through your website or socials?
Yes, well, I do have socials. Everywhere. I've got a lovely VA who looks after all of that for me. Hands up that I'm not great with Instagram, but she's very good. She puts posts up there for me. But certainly my website's probably the easiest way to get hold of me. Right Click Business.com.au. That's probably the best way. There's links there where you can connect with me, make an appointment. But yes, I have a Facebook page, on LinkedIn for those women that are on LinkedIn. But I'd love to connect. I offer a 3-hour, just no obligation chat. See where you're at and see what tools I can give you to just start the journey. And that's all you need to do is just start. one bite of that elephant at a time.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think, the listeners will have this conversation, and I look forward to seeing where things go for you and promoting your courses. So we'll put all the links and the information in the bio for the listeners out there, and we will be up again soon.
Thank you, Marika. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. It's been, a journey for both of us, I think, and it's just been lovely to be able to share that with not only with you, but all of your listeners, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Well, thank you. And we'll be up with more episodes soon. Bye.